everything in between. Want to join in? Call or text the show at 573-875-KTGR. The Big Show starts now.
You bet it does. Welcome into Tuesday's edition of The Big Show on your total sports station, KTGR. Andy Humphrey and Brenden Schaefer here as we give our good and bad and downright ugly from week 4 of the NFL season. I think finally a week where we can put the Chiefs in the good. So that's good news. But where do we put the tie? That's what the main question is for the good, bad, and ugly this week. What do we do with the tie, Brenden? I guess we'll find out soon.
I guess it depends on what you were expected to do in the game, maybe. like that's 2 weeks in a row for the Packers that we're going, what's going on here?
Defense, certainly. That's what the questions are being asked of. We'll get to that. We will also get to the comments. We'll play some of them for you around 5:05 of the new president of baseball operations, Chaim Bloom, with the St. Louis Cardinals. Brenden was there all day, getting more comments than what was just in the main press conference, but we'll talk a lot about what the new Pobo had to say in Cardinals land coming up at 5:05. The injury expert Will Carroll gives his thoughts on Chaim Bloom as well as NFL and baseball injuries as the baseball postseason begins today, 4:25. We'll discuss that. And, let's put together a rooting guide for the baseball playoffs. Who are you rooting for the most? Since, there's some folks that maybe have teams in it, but not many around here, probably. But tell us who you're rooting for in the MLB postseason. 875-5847. If you want to call or text us. You can also tweet us at KTGR Big Show and find us on Facebook at facebook.com/KTGR Big Show.
Now, the Big Show's Big Deal.
Chaim Bloom officially introduced as the new president of baseball operations for the St. Louis Cardinals. Jumbo Zaylock said goodbye at a press conference yesterday, and Chaim Bloom says hello today. And one of the big things that came from the news of the day was that Ollie Marmol will return as the Cardinals manager for 2026. So it will be year 5 at the helm for Ollie Marmol. We'll see what it means for the rest of the field staff, but Chaim Bloom said that he was impressed with how they still fought down the stretch despite not getting the record that they wanted. But Marmol will be staying on. That's what we do know as manager for his 5th season. Cardinals going 78-84 this past season, missing the playoffs for the 3rd consecutive year. And so we'll see what this means for the Cardinals in the offseason as Chaim Bloom takes over the helm, and that is the Big Show's Big Deal. On this 30th day of September 2025, you can call or text us here at 875-KTGR to let your thoughts be heard about all things Cardinals. We'll get to more of that at 5:05. We'll play a little bit of what Chaim Bloom had to say at the press conference today. But why don't we first get to what we do every single week here during football season. There's the music. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Week 4 of the NFL season. Give us a call or a text at 875-KTGR to tell us your good and bad and downright ugly from this past weekend of NFL football. So what do we do with the tie? Let's start with that. Well, how do you classify the tie, Brenden?
It's bad that game had ended a tie because it was a good game. It was a really compelling game. It had all the storylines involved with it, and ultimately we just are kind of left at the end going, did we just waste 3.5 hours of our lives? Like what? That game can end in a tie, and I get it. Players, it's very similar, I think, to the rule in baseball where you go to the man-for-man on second base and extra innings. Like, players like it. Players probably like that 10 minutes of overtime is all you get, and then it's a tie because it's a game in week 4, and injuries after those long overtime games spike significantly. So I'm not saying that there's just I don't have the obvious answer that's going to please everybody. But man, as a football fan, that was ugly because I wanted to see some resolution to that game. It was a great game. It was high drama, back and forth, and at the end we go, kick a field goal to go for the tie. Maybe LaFleur should have tried to win it. Is that crazy of me to say? Like in that spot, they weren't close to the end zone, so you're not going to concede a loss on a fourth down play from the 15-yard line or wherever they were. But I just hated that the best result of the final play of that game was LaFleur playing for a tie. I'm not even saying it's wrong. I just hated it as a fan.
Well, but he didn't. It wasn't even just that play where he's not playing for the win. Like, that happened minutes earlier. Like, the thing that I found most egregious was the fact that they were just with 2:25 left on the clock, they get a first down, and everyone's just kind of lumbering up like, okay, let's take this down to the 2. And they're around the 30-yard line. So, like, yeah, they're in field goal range, and the clock isn't much of a factor. But, like, why should it be? Just go score a touchdown and you win, and you don't have to worry about the clock. Like, that's what irked me the most, was that they did not set themselves up earlier in that drive to have a better situation on a play where it would have been maybe a tougher decision. Do we go for it, or do we just kick the field goal, cut our losses, and end this in a tie? Like, here's the thing. I'm pretty okay with ties in the NFL. Like, I am of the belief that, look, if neither team proves that they are worthy of this victory, then neither one should get the victory. No one should be putting a victory next to their name that they do not deserve. Generally speaking, I think we want to avoid that as much as possible, and that's why I think ties are a good thing. But in this case, I think the Cowboys deserved to win that game more than the Packers did. And this is where one of the rare cases where I think the tie got it wrong. The Cowboys deserved to win that game more than the Packers did.
I agree with you.
And so I think the Packers should have gotten another loss, and the Cowboys, with the way they played and with everything surrounding that game, they were 6.5-point underdogs at home. Micah Parsons comes back. Like, they played as well as you could have hoped for, and they should have won that game. Brian Schottenheimer deserved a win in that game. He's been a good coach so far. I think he has been very good for that team so far.
He's not been in circumstances that are particularly easy to deal with when your best players is traded by the owner of the team, who's also the GM of the team, who hired you, so you're thankful for the job, but also you're like, that's kind of a guy that would help us win football games, and now we're kind of a laughing stock. And they've rallied around. It was the Cowboys defense, Andy, that allowed for that game to be in the balance in the second half, because they were getting run out of the building at the beginning of the game, and then some timely turnovers, some big plays takes them into the half with a lead. And it ends up being the Micah Parsons-less defense that makes that happen. The other side of the ball, they didn't allow Parsons to make a gigantic impact on the game. He had one sack, and it was for no gain. It was just a tackle at the line of scrimmage. So, yeah, you're right. Maybe that's why I'm so upset about it, because I was so raring up for the Cowboys to win that game. I was on the Cowboys. It felt like just something was the puzzle piece out of place when that game ended, because it felt like the game was supposed to have some sort of resolution. And you're right. It felt like that resolution for the majority of the contest should have been a Cowboys win, because of the way that they played to get to where they got.
So that's why I will generally like ties, but not in that case, because I don't think it was just in how that game should have been decided based on how both teams played. So in that case, I'll call it ugly, I suppose. Both defense is bad. You can call it that. Both offense is good, whatever. Like, is what it is. But that's kind of how I feel about it. But you can tell us how you feel. 875-KTGR. Give us your good and bad and ugly from the past weekend of NFL football. Let's go to the KTGR hotline now. Hello, who's this? Who's on the
Quentin.
KTGR hotline? Is it Quentin?
Yes, it is.
Quentin, how are you, my friend?
Doing good.
What was your good from this weekend?
How about the Philadelphia Eagles?
I mean, got the win, right? That's a tough place to go and play. It didn't look all that pretty, but the Bucs started coming back, but the Eagles were able to quell that. What was the bad?
Baltimore Ravens and injury reports.
Oh boy. Well, certainly the injury report. There's a lot of bad going on in Baltimore, as it seems. What's the ugly?
The Cincinnati Bengals being the Bears on Monday Night Football last night.
Buddy, I mean, you agree, I'm sure, with how Buck and Troy were characterizing that game. Appreciate the call, Quentin, here on the Big Show KTGR. Like, it was bleak watching that. That was the game that ended last in the doubleheader last night for Monday Night Football, and like it's like a car crash that you couldn't look away from. Like, it was ugly, but I don't know why we couldn't look away. It was just a disaster from the Bengals. Disastrous.
And I don't see how you can throw Jake Browning out there for another game. I'm talking about anybody. You know who I think is on their practice squad is Brett Rippon. Before you let Drink would say his name before. I'm not kidding you. I would start him.
Rippin', baby. Come on.
You seriously, Jake Browning. Oh my gosh. I've never seen somebody look that in over their head. And it's just like, how many weeks do you want to see that? I get it. Like when he came in relief, it was a successful endeavor on the day that Burrow got injured. Like, he played pretty well. But the last two games have been it's been the worst football that you could imagine from that Bengals team. And it's like they're not a great team without their quarterback, but you got to be able to do a little bit more than that. It was bleak.
Well, yeah, for a team that's 2-2, they go into that game 2-1, and look, they're still underdogs. It's probably not a game that you expect to win on the road in Denver, but this seems, in that division at least, Baltimore looks much worse. Browns obviously haven't figured it out. They're starting Dylan Gabriel this week. Pittsburgh is the only real threat. Like, if you're the Bengals, you think, look, we're 2-2, and they're probably lucky to not be 0-4. So you at least give yourself a shot. You give the players on the team a shot to be competitive at some point that season. So I think you're right. Like, now's the week to do it, and you can't delay it another week. Like, if you're going to be serious about it, you've got to find a plan now, even if it's not the most, shored up plan, because look, it's a tough situation. So, but you got to do something, got to tweak something.
And frankly, how expensive could it be to trade for one of the quality either backups or third stringers that exist in the NFL? Like, I get that the Giants would probably rather trade Russell Wilson than Jameis Winston, but how is that not a phone call that's made unless you're just punting on the season?
I don't know, man. 875-KTGR. Give us a call or a text. There are definitely options out there. We'll see what the Bengals decide to do. I'll say if I had to go 1, 2, 3, the good, obviously the Chiefs. I mean, shoot.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, I got on that one. They were very good.
And look, now you see the light at the end of the tunnel. If you get through these next couple of weeks, you get Rashee Rice back. Jaguars and Lions to come. If you split from that, I think you've done a pretty decent job weathering that storm. And then the goal, I think, at that point should be at least 5-4 by the bye week. Maybe a loss to the Bills is in the offing there. Fine, whatever. But they've done everything they can to come back up. How about another good? Jackson Dart, man. Like,
yeah.
That's pretty good for him. He didn't have great numbers, but I don't think that necessarily matters when you're just putting him in to provide a spark for your team. And he showed some plays that were those toughness plays, right? A new quarterback has to show his toughness every so often to the rest of the group, whether it's like, scrambling, getting a first down, putting it all on the line, things like that. He had several of those that makes me think, you know what, maybe this can actually work. Maybe this is finally Brian Daboll's quarterback that he can turn into a guy that sticks around for multiple years.
I liked it when they picked him up in the draft, man. And I wasn't sure how long because they did spend a decent bit on Russell Wilson, and so I wasn't sure how long it would take before they would turn to Jackson Dart. But for him to win that game and for Malik Neighbors to go down, that's just ugly. It's the ugliest thing that's ever happened to me in fantasy football because of the trades I made the night before. But that's for them to win that game. I mean, I liked it for Daboll too because this year goes sideways. He's not going to be around there anymore. Can Jackson Dart save his tenure in New York? I think it's possible. They don't have to be a playoff team this year, but if they can show that, hey, they've got their quarterback and they've got a team that buys into the system and they win enough games to give a proof of concept for that, I do think at his core, Daboll's a pretty good football coach, and I would almost like to see the Giants exceed expectations under Dart and be able to build it with it's going to be harder without Malik Neighbors. Yeah. That's a killer.
Yeah, that's the tough part. Can I call two teams that played each other bad? Is that allowed? Can I do that?
I think
even
you can.
Even though one team won the game,
yeah.
I think both teams still, I don't feel good about they played. I'm talking about the Commanders and the Falcons. Both bad. I mean, I know the Falcons won the game. I know it was fairly high scoring, but I think that's an indictment on what both teams are defensively. And that ultimately is the question that we had about both of these teams coming into this season. Can their defenses find ways to get something going to create a more balanced team that actually is feared come playoff time? And certainly the Commanders didn't do that. And look, the Falcons, man, like Marcus Mariota was on the other side. One Jaden Daniels still gave up 27 points. Come on. What are we doing? Both bad.
All right. That's I'm not convinced either team is particularly good. So I'm not really going to push back on that one because I think with the Commanders, Jaden Daniels probably covered up some warts for them, and they're maybe not quite as strong of a position, certainly without him, but even with him, as he's going to come back, I believe this week is the expectation there. So those two teams and like the inconsistencies as well. When you think about like the Falcons, one week they cannot throw a forward pass, and then Penix puts up 300 yards, but you still give up a lot on defense. I want to see the Falcons be a little bit more consistent, and I'm okay with the answer is consistently bad because they are about as hot cold of a team as I think I've seen in the NFL so far this year.
Very much so. Call or text us with your good and bad and ugly. 573-875-KTGR. My ugly is the Titans. I just well, I think we all agree on that one. That's pretty much cut and dry with that. Brian Callahan getting testy with reporters. It's not looking all that great to start out. So yeah, what was your anything from your good and bad and ugly chambers, Brenden?
In the chambers, I probably have to give it to the Eagles. I know that they're kind of winning ugly, but they're winning and they keep winning. And they win on the road against a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that I think is pretty good, and a quarterback that I think is pretty good. So I'm still impressed by the Eagles in the way that they are going about it. Eagles and Jaguars are the two that stood out the most for me this week. I'm into Liam Cohen. I think what Liam Cohen's doing is good. And I think he can be successful there. He's got some things to sort through. He's going to have to get everybody to buy in. Guys like Brian Thomas, some weirdness, but he feels like the coach that's willing to just kind of lay it out straight and you can take it or leave it. And I think he's analytically based, so he's got a lot of stuff up there in his big brain that is going to make that team successful. The Jaguars are interesting to me, and of course that's the opponent for the Chiefs this week, and I'm excited to see that game. I'm not like a Chiefs hater anymore. I needed to see a game from them like they gave against the Ravens, so Chiefs are the Chiefs. I'm back in. But I also think that's going to be a very difficult game because I don't think the Jaguars are a team to sleep on either.
What do we do with the Bears?
We credit him for getting the win because at this stage in the Caleb Williams experience and the Ben Johnson experience, just getting the win is really all that counts. And so finding a way to block a field goal at the very bitter end to secure that win, I was kind of hoping that the Raiders would make the field goal because there was time left for the Bears to maybe have one more drive and still win the game. That would have been a really compelling finish. But I appreciate that they're going to have to win some games ugly and just try to avoid an ugly record, right? Like it doesn't really matter how you do it. If you get to 8-9 this year as the Bears and you're just kind of in the middle and you're building in year one of Ben Johnson, that's enough for me to go, you know what, they might have something with Caleb Williams. I think they've got something with this head coach. You just can't have, you got to take a step forward, and that's a tough division to do it in, and so just surviving that Raiders game puts them in the good for me, I think, Andy.
So they're on bye this week. I know you love me reading schedules, but I find this very intriguing. Here's the next 5 for the Bears. At the Commanders, hosting the Saints, at the Ravens, at the Bengals, hosting the Giants. That's manageable, baby.
Like they can get to 9 wins. I mean, if they really get guys on board in that building, it's just that's another team though with the inconsistencies where some weeks Caleb Williams can do no wrong and other weeks he can do no right. And he's going to be somewhere in the middle ultimately, I think. But to find his level, I think is really what they're looking to do and establish what that foundation looks like with a new coach and a lot changing for him and them. I totally understand it. But you're right. Despite playing in a pretty difficult division where those divisional games will be tough, outside of the divisional games, you've got wins on the schedule if you take them.
There's actually another game where both teams can be considered bad, and even with how they played, and it was last night. Jets Dolphins. Like, come on, man. someone had to win it, I suppose. No, they could have tied. Like,
They could have tied.
That's where
we
got to
stop saying that.
The tie happened in the wrong game this weekend.
Yeah. We got to stop saying someone had to win because I guess we found out that that's not actually true.
Right.
The Jets were the perfect team for the Dolphins to have scheduled this week. Because if they didn't, they lose to almost any other team in the NFL. And the Jets aren't the miserable Jets from last year, but they're not great yet.
No.
And that was serendipitous if you're a Miami fan or if you're a fan of Mike McDaniel, because I think a loss there I really do feel would have put him in some really dire straits with his role. And I don't know. Maybe there's hope. Remember before the season, that was a team that it was kind of contentious. I said over on their win total, and I was kind of on an island, and it looked like that was a terrible prediction, and it may still end up being a bad prediction because they played poorly and still found a way to win. But they're going to have to find a way to play up to competition and get over the hump in one of these games, because they played up against the Bills last week. They just fell short in that was a Thursday night game. They maybe played down to the Jets a little bit in this one, but there is opportunity to kind of get back to 500 if you can rack off a couple of wins. I don't know what their next couple of weeks look like. You're the schedule reader here. But they didn't play well, and they kind of got away with it.
At the Panthers, hosting the Chargers, at the Browns, at the Falcons.
You know what? And look, if you lose ugly to a team like the Panthers, that might still be curtains.
Got to do it without Tyreek Hill too, right? He's out.
His gruesome injury. You lose him as well. And that hurts. It does. But it's that team to me is more about the rest of the group. Like, what does the defense end up being? What is what can they find from the run game? Is Achane a guy that's going to consistently be able to win on the ground? Can the offensive line give him enough room to do that, or do they have to keep dumping the ball off to him? He's a weapon out of the backfield. Like, can they be a well-rounded team without Tyreek Hill? Because I don't know that they were a very well-rounded team with him. But I will say the schedule sets up, because the Panthers is not an impossible matchup by any means. You get to host the Chargers, which is your most difficult opponent of the next 4 weeks. At the Browns, not an easy team to beat, but beatable. And then you go to the Falcons, who we just talked about their inconsistencies. And hell, even after that, you host the Ravens. So, like, we know that they can be beat in their secondary and frankly, everywhere on that defense. So there's room for Mike McDaniel to win 3 of the next 5 and kind of be chilling at a 4-5 record or something, to be able to maybe make a push in the second half. But if they don't do it against this upcoming schedule, it's not going to happen.
So what was good and bad and ugly from this past weekend of NFL football? Call or text us at 875-KTGR if you want to weigh in. The injury expert Will Carroll weighs in on that Tyreek Hill injury and others across the NFL this past weekend and the start of the MLB postseason. He joins us next here on The Big Show, KTGR.
Miss the latest edition of The Big Show? Catch up on demand with a full show podcast on the KTGR app. Download it now, wherever you get your apps.
When the Tigers score, you score. Today at your Columbia Hy-Vee. It's Touchdown Tuesday, and the Tigers scored 42 points on Saturday. So you earn 42 cents toward your Perks Fuel Saver for every $42 you spend. Get free gas just for shopping at Hy-Vee. If you don't have perks yet, just ask to sign up at customer service. It's Touchdown Tuesday, so earn 42 cents off a gallon of gas for every $42 you spend. Today only at Hy-Vee.
Winter's on the way, so now's the time to plan your tree pruning. Here's why. In winter, trees are dormant, which means there's less risk of disease. Plus, without all those leaves, it's way easier to see exactly what needs trimming. The educated, licensed, insured, and experienced crew at Advanced Tree Solutions knows how to protect your trees and your wallet. But spots are filling fast, so schedule your winter pruning today at AdvancedTreeSolutionsLLC.com. Advanced Tree Solutions, LLC, your tree's best friend.
This weekend, cancel your plans. Brunch is calling at the Dive Bar in Columbia. Start with biscuits, not just any biscuits, local made, buttermilk, sweet corn, even gluten-free, smothered in scratch-made gravy, pork sausage, or the chorizo. Don't forget the loaded biscuit, fluffy omelet, drenched in gravy, stacked so high it's basically brunch art. And then there's the Dive Cristo, smoked ham, house-made raspberry jam, gooey cheese wrapped in a flaky puff pastry. The Monte Cristo wishes it was this good. Brunch Saturday and Sunday only at the Dive Bar in Columbia. Don't just eat, experience.
You could be right in the middle of celebrating a big win, and all of a sudden, bang, you've got ants on the counter or mice in the garage. Hi, I'm Mike Kelly. As someone who's called buzzer beaters and game winners for 3 decades, I think the best call that you can make is to Steve's Pest Control. I'm on the road a lot during the season, which is why I've signed up for Steve's 5-star pest control program. It's comforting to know that even when I'm not home, Steve's Pest Control is protecting my house from termites and other pests. Plus, the 5-star program keeps the pests at bay, controlling and eliminating them before they have a chance to enter your home. Scheduling is incredibly easy. You don't even have to be home. And if a pest problem pops up at any time, Steve's will perform a retreat for no additional charge. Call Steve's Pest Control today and ask about their 5-star pest control program so you can kick back, relax, and enjoy the game.
Hi, I'm Steve with Steve's Pest Control. We're going to solve your pest problem. I guarantee it.
Now you got a friend in the pest control business. Steve's Pest Control.
If you're 55 or older and into that whole saving money thing, T-Mobile has an exclusive phone and internet bundle just for you. Right now, get 2 unlimited phone lines plus 5G home internet for just $30 each per month with autopay, plus taxes and fees. And with 5G home internet, setup is easy with just 1 cord and no technician needed, which is great if you're also into that whole keeping it simple thing. Switch now and experience the best mobile network in the U.S. Visit your local store to start saving. T-Mobile, it's better over here. Based on analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data Q4 2024 to Q1 2025. Ookla trademarks used under license. Unlimited on our network. Customers on voice plan may notice speeds lower than other customers and further reduction if using more than 50 gigs a month due to data prioritization. Video streams and SD on this plan. Home internet pricing after $20 a monthly bill credit plus $5 per line without autopay. Debit or bank account required. See 5G device coverage and access details at T-Mobile.com.
Tired of calling Andy and Brenden? So are their wives. Then shoot them a text right now. 573-875-KTGR and become part of the Big Show.
We're back here on the Big Show, KTGR and the KTGR app. Andy Humphrey here as we now bring in the injury expert Will Carroll to discuss all things NFL and baseball injuries as the postseason began today. You can follow him with his Under the Knife newsletter, undertheknife.substack.com, and see all of the great insider info for this postseason. Well, let's start with football, Will. Seemed that Xavier Worthy looked okay for the Chiefs with the shoulder injury, the torn labrum that he came back from. It's still torn, obviously, but playing through it and look, made an impact. How did you kind of view Worthy's performance and whether that's going to continue for the Chiefs here?
Yeah, it should. I think this is what we see. If you watched him closely, you could see there was something underneath the shoulder pads. There was something extra beyond just the brace. There was some sort of it looked almost like a really high flak jacket. I asked some people there. I couldn't get a good answer on what exactly it was, but he's definitely, I don't want to say limited. He can still catch the ball. They're making sure, if you watch the routes that he was running, it's a lot of comeback routes where he doesn't really have to reach for the ball. They're not throwing up 50-50s. They're not having him run way down the field. And that was, I think, the one clean one. I want to go back and look at some of the PFF reports and exactly what routes he ran. Did they ever run him downfield on one of those long passes as anything other than a decoy that went to the other side? That's what I'm serious about, because those are the plays where you can end up diving. Those are the plays. He never had to make a catch where he really had to extend his arms up. Mahomes seemed very conscious of it. All of them seemed very early in the routes that they were looking to him first so they could throw it in. They didn't run any of those speed slants. They often do. So I think Worthy's still limited, but they figured out what he can do and what they're comfortable with and what keeps him the most protected. So he's obviously still very useful in that case.
Yeah, definitely made an impact in that game against the Ravens, who then had their own major injury scare themselves throughout that game. Lamar Jackson did not finish the game. He came out with what was apparently a hamstring strain. Cooper Rush finished the game at quarterback. And so now that's an issue that the Ravens have to deal with, along with being 1-3 and trying to come back from that. So with or without Lamar Jackson certainly appears to affect the Ravens' future. But how do you read it, Will, with how it was framed on Sunday and now as we head into this week, what could happen?
I was talking to another writer, and he tipped me off that he thought, because of the speed numbers, which we now have, that Jackson's been dealing with this all season. He hasn't been running as much, and his speed has been significantly down. Is that just because he's not sprinting, or is that because he's actually been hurt? Looking back at it, I think it might well be the latter. This team's not good. It's crazy to think that a team with Jackson and Derrick Henry back there, but you can scheme for those guys. The league has figured it out. And if Lamar Jackson loses his legs, what is he? We've seen quarterbacks like this. Donovan McNabb is probably the biggest example of it. If you age out of being a rushing quarterback, what do you become? I think this is a little more open offensively era. They're much more willing to scheme for these kind of quarterbacks. They're willing to draw them up. Heck, they're willing to take a rookie quarterback like Jackson Dart and have design runs up the middle. So it's certainly not the age we were 20 years ago when McNabb was around. But I do wonder whether he's going to be a quarterback that ages well. And you start to see hamstring strains, you start to see calf strains, you start to see lower back injuries. Those are the ones that really, really take you out. And I'm just curious if this is the beginning of the end, or if this is just another, garden variety hamstring strain. He'll be by it, in a week or two.
Will Carroll, the injury expert here on the Big Show, KTGR and the KTGR app. Now to some more serious injuries that are taking guys out for the season. And we saw one last night with Tyreek Hill, a gruesome one, where he dislocated the knee, apparently also tore the ACL. They had to rush him to the hospital, obviously, to repair that as soon as they could, the dislocated knee part. But obviously out for the season for Tyreek Hill. What did you make of the injury when it happened, Will, and how they treated it?
Yeah, great work by the Dolphins medical staff to get him off, to get him out of pain. It was a very slick injection that they did. Go back and watch the film. You won't even see it. It's just one of those things that happens. Knees are not designed for this sport. We can't blame the turf for this one. This was just flat out one of those injuries where it can happen in any game. And it unfortunately happened to Tyreek Hill, a guy who needs his knees. I don't think this is going to, end his career. I mean, we're talking about Jackson at hamstring. Guys come back from ACL and multi-ligament injuries all the time. Some don't. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But it's one of those issues where, as gruesome as it was, once you reduce that dislocation, it becomes just any other ACL. The reason he was rushed wasn't so much that they had to repair it quickly. They still haven't, actually done his knee surgery. What they worry about in these situations is the nerves and the blood vessels. If it gets bent out of shape, there's not a lot of give there because there's not supposed to be. So those nerves and blood vessels can get stretched and tear. And in those cases, that's an emergency situation. So they're always watching for that. And in this one, they said better safe than sorry. He didn't appear to have any of that damage, but really, really good job by both medical staffs.
So good response time there. Now with the injury to Malik Neighbors, which is also an ACL that he suffered in the Giants' most recent game. It ended up being a win against the Chargers. Pretty impressive win for Jackson Dart's first start, but he'll be without Neighbors for the rest of the season with the torn ACL. How do you see that situation, Will?
Yeah, this one's going to be interesting because I think the NFLPA is going to take a really hard look at this because this didn't look like much. This just looks like his foot stuck and he twisted a little bit. So was that the turf? You certainly have to think about it when people like Odell Beckham pops up and says, "Oh, these kind of things ruined my career." Did it, or did you just not rehab very well, Odell? He's definitely raising attention for it. So it was bad for Neighbors. He'll be back next year. Hopefully he'll have a good career. Hopefully he rehabs harder than Odell ever did. So we'll see how this goes. But it is going to put a little more focus on the turf teams because the PA has been pounding this drum for a while. And at some point, the league is going to have to address it.
Will Carroll, the injury expert here on the Big Show, KTGR and the KTGR app. Let's flip over to baseball, Will, with the postseason starting today. The Dodgers had an interesting decision made today. They included Will Smith on their playoff roster for this wild card series. Now, Smith had been dealing with the hairline fracture in the right hand, but it appears that they'll carry him as a third catcher on the roster for this series against the Reds. How do you see that situation, Will, and what Will Smith might be able to do for the Dodgers at this point?
Yeah, I'm genuinely surprised by this. We were talking off the air about this, and I just assumed because yesterday I had been told he was going to be left off. One of the questions was, do you lose a pitcher and carry three catchers? Because obviously you do have to worry about that hand acting up and pulling him, especially if you're using him at DH, which it sounds like they might. So this is one of those that the short series give you more options because you can just reset the roster if you get through. And if you don't get through, well, at least you can say you used everybody. I mean, Clayton Kershaw is not on the roster, and this isn't an injury. This is that he's not one of the three best pitchers. And they don't want to use him as a reliever. They just don't feel he's prepared for that, even though he did an inning, I think, Tuesday or Wednesday, just to see. But he'll be back. He'll be on the longer roster, and somebody, I forget, the game 3 is Ohtani, so they're not going to leave Glasnow off. They'll leave somebody off. Maybe they'll realize they don't need all three catchers, that Will Smith is fine. So these roster decisions get a little bit weird, and they don't have nearly as much cost unless you get it wrong. And, if Will Smith goes out there, his hands are hurting so bad, they swell up, they have to take him off, he would miss the next series as well. So this is a little bit of a bold decision by the Dodgers.
Will Carroll, the injury expert here on the Big Show, KTGR. Now to the case of the Red Sox-Yankees series, which everyone was anticipating when they saw it get matched up over the weekend. Lucas Giolito going to be left off the roster for the Red Sox with the elbow issue. Alex Cora said that the other day, that he was dealing with that. Was thought to maybe start the third game, but now that won't be the case. How do you see that with Giolito, Will?
Yeah, I mean, Giolito's coming off Tommy John surgery 2 years ago. He's had a very good comeback season. He's been very good all the way through, and we're going to see him and Max Fried potentially going up against each other as early as today. But, it's not a significant injury, but he won't pitch this postseason, which tells me there's probably some sort of bone spur, bone chip going around in there. That would probably take about 4 to 6 weeks. So they're going to have to go with the rookie, Connolly Early. Very good kid. He's another lefty. They've got a couple of young lefties in Early and Kyle Harrison, who was with the Giants and part of that Devers trade. So this does hurt them. Giolito has come back pretty well. So a late injury with no time to really make it up means rookie's going to be tossed out there and, potentially a game 3 do or die. Maybe they're hoping that he doesn't have to pitch. So we'll see exactly how this goes for the Red Sox, but a really interesting one for those two. Imagine that team, Max Fried and Lucas Giolito and Jack Flaherty, who's going to pitch for the Tigers. We're all three on the same high school team. How did they ever lose?
I don't know. They must have. How could you not survive a postseason bracket for whatever high school they in? I don't even know what the setup is, but it seemed like they have pitching for days when it comes to that. Will, last thing, officially Chaim Bloom's first day as the new lead baseball executive for the Cardinals. At his introductory press conference, not a whole lot of stuff revealed, but we did learn that Ollie Marmol is back as manager for next year. How do you kind of see it now as this is officially Chaim Bloom's show in St. Louis?
Yeah, I think everybody's going to get to know Chaim and love him. I've known him for 20 years. Here's my favorite Chaim Bloom story. Where early on, he was working at Baseball Prospectus, and Nate Silver, who people probably know, asked Chaim just in passing, and was like, Chaim, what's your favorite movie? And Chaim, without blinking, and he was not joking here, he just turned and goes, I haven't seen them all. He's very dry. He's exceptionally smart. He's not one of these people that's so smart but doesn't have social skills. He's deep in the analytics, but he came up as a scout and working in the scouting department. He's obviously been working on the development side this year. This is, I think, the right guy for this team. it's not a full rebuild, but I think the ground has been seeded for a big change. I was a little surprised with Marmol, but I think, especially with all the movement in managers, Bochy going out, maybe going back to San Francisco, Rocco Baldelli's out like everybody else in Minnesota. They fired all their scouts. That was stupid. And we'll see. I don't think this is some sort of long extension for Marmol. I think this is, wait and see. I don't think he wanted to make a rash move now just to make a move. He didn't need his guy in there. He needed the right guy. And I think he's seen enough from Marmol in the development this year that it should be interesting to see. I do think there's going to be a lot of moves these offseason. I really think the Cardinals do not want to have a long, slow tear down and rebuild. Heck, look at the Reds. The Cardinals should be as good as Reds. The Reds have some talent, but they don't have as much money. For me, the best thing about the press conference was that DeWitt, baby DeWitt, there was talking about that he heard the message of the fans loud and clear, that attendance was noticed by ownership, and that's the kind of thing that turns up the wick a little bit. So I think they'll make some bold moves. I think they'll make some smart moves, and I'm really excited about where the Cardinals are going to be in 2 or 3 years.
Will, what's new at Under the Knife?
Playoffs, man. We're going to be covering the playoffs. We're going to be watching the injuries. We got some other stuff we're working on, a new MRI machine that's coming out that might make it possible to have them in stadiums. So lots of stuff. And then into the off season, tons of stuff in what's going to be one of the most active off seasons we've ever seen.
Go and check it all out over at undertheknife.substack.com with the injury expert, Will Carroll. Great to have him here on the big show, KTGR. Thanks for coming on, Will. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, boys.
Big show's on. That's 4:43 KTGR and the KTGR app. Baby DeWitt. I mean, I guess it's technically correct.
Man's in his 50s, though.
Yeah, but he's the younger DeWitt up there.
He's the son, yeah.
But yeah, some obviously Will is pro Chaim Bloom, and I think that's right to be. But
I'm intrigued, and we'll get more into what we learned from the press conference, and maybe it's not as much as the actions that follow will be able to tell us. But I mean, certainly when you talk about getting a new voice in the room, Chaim represented that and thought he did well today. But we'll get into some more details coming up.
For sure, 5:05 will play some of that audio from the press conference. You can give us your thoughts on the new Cardinals regime at 875-KTGR. In the meantime, Under the Bus coming up next. One of the best players in the WNBA felt the need to say what I'm sure a lot of players have wanted to say out loud, but haven't been all that impactful in doing that just yet. But this might be from this particular player. We'll get to that next.
Now, your local sports center update on your total sports station, KTGR.
Good afternoon. I'm Andy Humphrey. This Sports Center update is with Lee's Tire Company. If it's round and rubber, Lee's sells it. Go to leestirecompany.com. The Cardinals will be keeping manager Ollie Marmol for a 5th season into 2026. That news being released today as new president of baseball operations, Chaim Bloom, was introduced today. Bloom taking over after spending the past couple of years in the Cardinals organization as an advisor. He once led the Rays and Red Sox organizations, and taking over for John Mozeliak, who stepped down officially yesterday as president of baseball operations after 19 years. Meanwhile, the Cardinals finishing 78-84 this past season, missing the playoffs for the 3rd consecutive year. Mizzou heading into its bye week 5-0, their first of 2 bye weeks on the season. The news was released yesterday that their next game against Alabama on October 11th will air on ABC with an 11 a.m. kickoff at Faurot Field. It is sold out for the 18th consecutive game for Mizzou football. You can hear the Yingling Tiger Game Day show beginning at 8 a.m. next Saturday, October 11th. Now your ABC 17 Storm Track forecast.
I'm ABC 17 Storm Track Chief Meteorologist Jessica Hafner. I'm tracking mostly clear skies with a chance of some steam fog in river valleys tonight. We'll drop down into the low 60s. Tomorrow we'll see sunshine again with highs in the upper 80s, and the heat looks to continue. We'll see partly cloudy skies tomorrow night with temperatures falling into the low 60s, highs back into the 80s on Wednesday. I'm ABC 17 Storm Track Chief Meteorologist Jessica Hafner, and that's your ABC 17 Storm Track forecast on your total sports station, KTGR.
Did you miss the Mizzou play of the week?
Inside handoff, cutting it back right. Hardy gets to the 10. Hardy right sideline, runs over a man to the pylon. Touchdown, Missouri. His third rushing touchdown of the game. This one from 16. Ahmad Hardy goes over 100 yards rushing as he just ran over Ferris, the safety.
The Mizzou Play of the Week is powered by Yingling. Your home for Mizzou football is KTGR.
Discover, explore, and soak in the views of the incredible landscapes that make up the last frontier, Alaska. Experience the diverse culture and rich history as we cruise the Pacific coast and explore the wilds of Denali, Glacier Bay, and beyond. And boy, do we have some good news. There are currently still seats available, but don't wait, as you only have until October 3rd to book this once-in-a-lifetime trip. To RSVP and learn more, go to ZimmerCommunications.com today.
On game day, every needs a. And every tailgate needs Kingsford charcoal. And a match. Whatever lot you're in, whatever you're grilling up for your fellow Tiger tailgaters, Kingsford charcoal is the official charcoal of Missouri football. Without it, you're just standing around in a parking lot. Since 1920, Kingsford has been proud to fire up your tailgates with friends and family. Kingsford.com.
Hey, it's Molly, and it's football season at Billiards. What he said was, our Missouri teams are going to be really good this year.
I did love me an old kiss.
That's right. So whether you watch on Saturdays or Sundays, Billiards has the biggest TVs in Columbia.
Have you give it out old H2O?
Whether you're hydrating with H2O or a cold Missouri beer on tap, watch your favorite teams all season at Billiards.
You gotta have to boogie on down.
Billiards! Home Broadway. Now that's high quality.
Right there. That hole opens up, and he did not hesitate to hit it.
Seriously.
You don't have to live like this. Just trying to watch football and laugh at obviously hilarious things the broadcasters say. Your favorite team plays outside. You should be watching them outside on a Crutch's deck.
Yeah, he got penetration there, but he just couldn't finish it.
Get a custom outdoor football watching oasis with Crutch's Custom Exteriors. True beauty is on the outside. CrutchesCustomExteriors.com. Always ahead of the curve? Seem to know what's going to happen? Like a prophet? Prove it, Nostradamus, with Profit Shares. Predict the outcome of every black and gold game or whoever your favorite team is. It's all at Profit Shares, and it doesn't cost a thing to play. Make your predictions risk-free and win prizes like gift cards to Amazon, Chick-fil-A, and other favorites. Or donate your winnings to charities. Contests are open now. Play for free at ProfitShares.com. PROPHET shares.com.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $200-$300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code RUN to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code RUN for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code RUN for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
If it's Mizzou sports, it's happening here. Now, back to the big show on KTGR.
Look, WNBA's been growing, and that's been great to see. It appears, at least according to the players, and one of the more prominent ones today, that leadership has to be ready for this type of growth and be ready to lead it into a new era. And Afisa Collier, who is a Jeff City native, by the way, played her freshman year in Jeff City. Then her family moved to St. Louis, finished out at Incarnate Word, went to UConn, and now at the Minnesota Lynx. Probably should have won the league MVP this year. She was that good. She was very unfiltered today about how she felt about the WNBA commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, and said that she had been negligent, essentially, among many other things. Quote, "We have the best players in the world. We have the best fans in the world. But right now we have the worst leadership in the world. If I didn't know exactly what the job entailed, maybe I wouldn't feel this way. But unfortunately for them, I do. We serve a league that has shown they think championship coaches and Hall of Fame players are dispensable, and that's fine. It's professional sports. But I will not stand quietly by and allow different standards to be applied at the league level." And like, it's interesting because Collier co-founded the Unrivaled League that's kind of like side by side with the WNBA a little bit and is growing in and of itself too. So she kind of knows what it's like to run a league. And now she's coming after the commissioner of the league as far as how to run it. It's very interesting.
And so maybe there's some merit to it. Who actually goes under the bus? Is it the commissioner that actually?
Yeah.
We're honking the horn on. I think there's some merit to that potentially.
I think so. And by the way, CBA negotiations coming up too.
Not there too.
All of that, yeah.
We've got CBAs coming out the year in pro sports these days.
Oh man, it is something else. But look, I'm on the side of Nafisa Collier on this because there have been other players that have complained about the officiating in the league, how it is affecting player safety, and how the league itself has just, handed out fines and turned the other way, as Collier said today in her long statement about it. But yeah, I'm on her side. I think right now, WNBA commissioner is certainly under fire for a lot of the things that could be coming down the pipe in that league. It's been great last couple of years, great growth, but I think you need to be ready for sustaining that growth because if the players aren't healthy through all of that, well, then you're not going to grow as well. And also under the bus to Sauce Gardner. I believe this was after the game. I suppose there were a couple of calls that went against him in coverage, maybe some pass interference, maybe some holding, stuff like that. But he said that, well, he's not getting these calls because the Jets aren't winning. Well, if we were winning a little bit more, then maybe I would get some of those calls. Okay, that's the reason why. That's why.
The chicken or the egg, the chicken or the egg, which comes first, the chicken or the egg.
I feel like there's a little bit of that going on here.
I would feel like the guy who is the highest paid at his position now, Sauce Gardner, would maybe not blame his own team for not winning and why he's not getting calls. I would think that's the case. But I don't know. It's just me. I don't know.
Something about I don't know. Something about that team. We just can't shake it.
We just can't shake it
with that team.
And look, I still think that Aaron Glenn's the right guy to try and turn things around.
Are you positive? I'm not anti-Aaron Glenn, but I don't know. It's like the stink of the Jets is already starting to kind of
permeate a little bit.
Well, let's be honest. How much stink was there? But there's a lot of stink to clean up.
There's a lot of stink.
Can one man do it in 4 games? I don't think so. Look, it's about making sure that those types of things aren't said as much. Like the fact that Sauce Gardner has the freedom to say that type of thing is what I think needs to get squashed going forward. And I do think Aaron Glenn will eventually do that. He kind of he didn't say that Sauce was wrong to say it, but also said, look, we have a lot of things to fix and the penalties are not good enough. Clearly they were plaguing them in that game against the Dolphins. If they had a few that were taken off the board, then I don't know, maybe they win that game. But I do think that the type of coach that Aaron Glenn is can turn the culture around to the point where, okay, we're not blaming refs or other team. We're pointing the blame at ourselves when things go wrong and not elsewhere.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a culture aspect of it that you do want to see it play out that way.
So I think Aaron Glenn can get there, but yeah, no, it hasn't looked great through 4 games. I won't say that, but for now, Sauce is the one that has to go under for that because that stuff can't fly, and I'm sure it won't fly eventually in that organization. But for now, it's got to get out of there. Got to say, Gabe DeArmond wrote his tail off with this story he had for PowerMizzou.com, diving deep into how the Eli Drinkwitz hire came to be, how it was a former Mizzou lineman from the 80s, Curtis Wilson, whose son, Michael Wilson, Didn't start at Mizzou, but eventually got there. If you'll remember, he was a quarterback first, then a wide receiver, and he caught a pretty important touchdown pass in the win over LSU. Eli Drinkwitz's first win. But the whole story behind how he got connected with Mizzou, how Jim Sturck and Nick Juice conducted the search, and how it eventually got to Drinkwitz. Amazing stuff. Go check it out from Gabe DeArmond at Power Mizzou.
I'm so glad it played out that way. Drinkwitz is doing things at Mizzou and is going to continue to do them that I just don't think nationally people are ready for. They just don't know what's coming still. But man, just reading that story make you go, it was like a 6-inch putt for Jim Sturck to make. I guess he made it technically, Andy, but this dude had to have it delivered to his doorstep that, no, you don't hire Blake Anderson. You're like, what are we doing? So if you thought that I was going to let up on the Sturck jokes in light of a story like this one, you got another thing coming, bud, because that only served to kind of further my point of, wow, thank you, John Sunvold. I can say that.
Yeah,
I can say that after reading Gabe's story, but everybody should check it out at Power Mizzou.
Thank you, John Sunvold. Thank you, Curtis Wilson. I mean, shoot.
Thank you, Curtis Wilson. I mean, that seriously, you have to go read this story. The twists and turns. It was a great thing to think, to pursue and report and write by Gabe DeArmond.
Very well done. And go and check it out. Okay, we'll talk some Cardinals next at 5:05. Chaim Bloom, his first public comments as the lead baseball executive for the Cardinals. How did you feel about them? We'll hear about a few things he had to say coming up next at 5:05. Get your thoughts in with a call or text here at 875-KTGR.
When the Tigers score, you score. Today at your Columbia Hy-Vee. It's Touchdown Tuesday, and the Tigers scored 42 points on Saturday. So you earn 42 cents toward your Perks Fuel Saver for every $42 you spend. Get free gas just for shopping at Hy-Vee. If you don't have perks yet, just ask to sign up at customer service. It's Touchdown Tuesday, so earn 42 cents off a gallon of gas for every $42 you spend. Today only at Hy-Vee.
Everyone has their go-to game day outfit. Maybe it's a comfy black and gold hoodie or that old hat you wear because it still hasn't been to a losing game. Hi, this is Sophie Cunningham, and if you really want to stand out on game day, talk to the team at Betts Jewelers in downtown Columbia. Rock your favorite team's colors with a beautifully designed, one-of-a-kind custom piece of jewelry from Betts Jewelers in downtown Columbia, our hometown jeweler. MIZBETZ.
These beautiful moments begin at Betts. Begin at Betts.
The warm scent of maple spiced coffee fills the air. And is that a hint of Caribbean rum? That must be Caldy's Coffee Highlander Grog Brewing, our decadent maple spiced blend that's won fans nationwide. Loved for how it smells and for how it makes you feel. Each cup brings back the comfort of a classic coffee morning. Cozy, nostalgic, maple spiced coffee. Shop Caldy'sCoffee.com for your bag today. Also available in pods.
Before the sun comes up and long after it sets, ABC 17 News and Storm Track Weather keep working for you, gathering the information your family needs to take on the day, alerting you to breaking news and health and safety concerns in our area, plus tracking the latest weather conditions to help you plan ahead. It's everything you need to know from the team you trust most. ABC 17 News and Storm Track Weather, where the news comes first.
KTGR AM Columbia, KTGR FM Fulton Columbia, K286CL Columbia, in Missouri's total sports station. KTGR is Sports Center.
I'm Christine Lisi. The march to the World Series beginning today with the start of Major League Baseball's postseason. After coughing up a 15.5-game lead in the AL Central, the Tigers, looking to get back on track, visiting the division champion Guardians in Game 1 of their AL Wildcard Series. Ace Tarek Skubal determined to get Detroit a win.
Skubal delivers. Swing and a miss. Chased it, changeup, and it's strikeout number 14 for Skubal, and 5 in a row on strikes, 1 out.
The call on ESPN Radio. Skubal, 3 hits, 14 Ks, 7 2/3 innings. Guardians had a runner on third, bottom 9, no outs, could not score though. Detroit won at 2-1. Both the Tigers' runs were unearned. And a wild card opener, Cubs won their first home playoff game since the 2017 NLCS, beat the Padres 3-1. Ron Washington won't return as Angels manager in 2026, missed most of this season after undergoing quadruple bypass surgery. NFL Dolphins receiver Tyreek Hill won't need another surgery after undergoing a major procedure today to repair his dislocated left knee and multiple torn ligaments. He will play next season, according to his agent.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Candy. Coming up Wednesday, Caleb Williams has the Bears sitting at 2-2. I'll tell you, if Bears fans should be dreaming about the playoffs. It's Unsportsmanlike, weekday mornings at 6, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
From Faro.
15 to the 10, to the house.
Bush.
Back to the wall, and it's got her.
And Arrowhead.
Touchdown, Kansas City.
To your speakers.
This is the big show, baby.
Get fresh takes on the biggest sports stories in mid-Missouri. Right now, this is The Big Show with Andy and Brenden on KTGR.
We finally heard from the man himself, Chaim Bloom, the new president of baseball operations with the St. Louis Cardinals. Bloom even joked after his introductory statement at today's press conference that his friends in the media have been gathering up questions to ask him for about 2 years. And so he was ready to take those questions because really it was the first time he's publicly spoken outside of speaking at the press conference a year ago that announced he would be in this role following the 2025 season. Well, now we're here and we have an opportunity to reflect upon some of the things that Chaim Bloom said at Busch Stadium earlier this morning. And we'll play some of that audio for you as well as Andy and I kind of break down what we think the direction of the Cardinals is going to be after hearing from the new man in charge. At 5:25, we'll talk about our MLB rooting guide as the postseason is underway in earnest, with some interesting things involving AL Central Royals opponents already happening in these MLB playoffs. 573-875-5847 if you'd like to give us a call or a text on the show today. But first, it's 5 o'clock.
It's time for the Top 5 at 5 on The Big Show. Number 1.
If you want to trade away for curtain number 1, you can have curtain 1.
So the first time we got to hear publicly from Chaim Bloom as the lead baseball executive for the Cardinals. And look, he's not going to give too much away. That seems to be the type of guy that he is, but sounds good not giving things away. That's for sure. I also take away that Bill DeWitt Jr., not great at sounding his way, essentially, at least for now. But look, the news is that Howie Marmol is still back as the Cardinals manager. I think that's the right move. You don't shake that type of boat, especially when you might have several new faces in that clubhouse based on the moves that they might make. We still don't know what type of moves they'll be, but I think it's right to keep Marmol as the guy. I know he's going to take a lot of arrows, and Cardinals fans may not like it, but I still think that's the prudent way to handle what this new year might be for the Cardinals in 2026.
Number 2.
Number 2, your timing is impeccable.
And Royals GM J.J. Piccolo also spoke today as they have essentially their exit interviews after the Royals missed the playoffs, but they did have their second straight winning season. Main thing that came out of that was that, the field staff's mostly going to stay the same there, it would seem, too. That includes the hitting coach, Alex Zumwalt, that Piccolo said he will return as the hitting coach in 2026, and most of the staff will return as well. But there might be more staff that maybe helps in those areas. Look, Royals hitting-wise, obviously not up to snuff. They were better as the months went later. It was just too little too late. We'll see how they decide to address it going forward.
Number 3.
So this is interesting. We told you yesterday, according to Matt Norlander, National College Basketball reporter, that Mizzou was among many teams that had agreed to contracts to play in the Players Era Festival in Vegas. That's a November 2026 tournament happening next year. Well, now Norlander is reporting that Mizzou has actually decided to opt out of next year's tournament. And the tournament, the festival, is in the process of replacing with a different SEC team. So that's a little interesting. One day they're in it, and the next day they're out.
Number 4.
Oh, shanked it.
Defisa Collier, who should have been the WNBA MVP this year, in my estimation, she called out the WNBA commissioner today for being negligent as a leader, essentially, in her eyes. And look, I trust her with the way that she comes at it from the background of founding a league herself, unrivaled, and also being one of the best players. I think the WNBA leadership needs to listen to her.
Number 5.
What is the 5 fingers? Say to the face.
Oh, no Cardinals, no Royals. My Astros aren't in it. Who do I root for in the baseball postseason?
That's the Big Show's Top 5 at 5 on KTGR.
875-KTGR to call or text this year. I don't know what to do with my hands. I feel like I should just.
You're so spoiled.
Like,
You're so spoiled. You're so accustomed to seeing.
Oh,
please.
Who should I bandwagon? I don't know what to do. What's going on here?
The Astros aren't in it. That's unusual. The Cardinals aren't in it. We're getting used to that.
Yeah.
The Royals aren't in it. They were just in it last year. So yeah, it is a little bit weird around these parts. Welcome to the club. I'd love to be covering a postseason baseball game today, but that's instead I had to cover the press conference of the new guy who's taken over because the last guy's tenure went a little bit stale. Although that may not be fair to John Mozeliak, because frankly, I think this would have been about the time that he would have made his exit, Andy, regardless of the success level of the team. Like I think he was only going to be around for about this long and be ready to move on to something else. But certainly the nature of the way the last few years have gone maybe expedited that a little bit. And look, I think Chaim Bloom comes in at a good time. The only thing that's tricky is that whole CBA. We talked about that with the WNBA. I think the CBA stuff for baseball is kind of the backdrop of what some of these teams, in particular the Cardinals, are going to be thinking about for their payroll implications. Like, do you want to go sign several longer-term contracts before knowing what the ramifications of that are going to be? The Cardinals are likely going to end up usually somewhere more toward the middle of the payroll table anyway, and so it's not like a salary cap or floor or anything is really going to impact them in any way, but it could impact the value that other teams may have to pay for deals. And so I think with all of that uncertainty, the Cardinals could be waiting and seeing. And I didn't frankly hear anything today that told me that they may not take that path. I don't know, as far as what we did learn today, how substantive it necessarily was. But I know, Andy, we're going to play some audio, and I do think, like, first and foremost, I thought Chaim Bloom did a nice job today. Like, he read a prepared statement. He fielded some questions. He's, as Will Carroll has said, he's a smart guy. He's a savvy guy. I think if there's one big difference between him and John Mozeliak, I think Mo kind of, maybe it's just a product of, for 20 years, we heard John Mozeliak speak on behalf of the organization. And so he gets into his tropes and his different little sayings that he would do that would low-hanging fruit. Like, he gets credit for low-hanging fruit. He hasn't said that in a decade, right? But people remember it. And so when you're around for so long, those things are sort of attached to you. Chaim Bloom is something new, something fresh, something different. And I largely think he did a nice job today, but just the matter of being something different than Mo, I think, was going to have people in a better mood today about the St. Louis Cardinals, regardless of what he really ended up saying.
Yeah, this was kind of the part of his opening statement, which was, by and large, you usually don't pay as much attention to it as mainly the questions that these guys field, and that's the pointed stuff that they have to be prepared for, but maybe is more off the cuff as far as or as far as the prepared stuff. I did find this interesting. Like, this at least signaled to me that it might look like a rebuild going forward for the Cardinals. And here was Chaim Bloom talking about the direction that the Cardinals will be going as he takes over.
Well, you heard me say it. We aren't where we want to be, competing for the division and for the World Series. We have talent here. We have more talent coming. And we have some of the makings of that core, but we need more. And so our top priority will be to build our talent base for the long term. That may mean hard decisions and short-term sacrifices, but to get where we want to go, we can't take shortcuts, and we won't. We will always want to win, and we will hunt moves and decisions that allow us to do that right now too, as long as they also serve our ultimate goal. But when we have to choose between short-term gratification and our bigger goal of contending consistently, we will choose the long term. We will make moves with that ultimate goal in mind, because simply put, that's where this organization needs to be.
Long-term versus short-term, Brenden. They say long-term. That's rebuild-y, at least, right? That's
we very much do fixate on the words. And like, did he say it? Did he say the word? No, he didn't say the word. I didn't hear rebuild out of Chaim's mouth today. John Denton asked a question to Bill DeWitt Jr., the team chairman, the owner, about with rebuild was in the word, and he had a response to that. But nobody else really said that word. But to your point, Andy, it seems very clear. Like I said, he's not going to put his foot in his mouth. He's very much a savvy guy. And so Chaim Bloom, I think part of the problem was Mo's tendency to go back to the same couple of words, and then it almost becomes a theme of a season where we joked about the word runway. We'd heard it so much, it was like enough already. Chaim Bloom, I think, spoke more effectively to where I didn't pick anything out of his press conference today that we're going to be able to cling to and say, yeah, but you said runway. Like I didn't hear that. Now, granted, he's going to have to say more words as time goes along. This was only day one, but that is one thing that struck me about today.
Well, you can contrast it to the answer that Bill DeWitt Jr. gave on the rebuild question from John Denton. Here was that.
I think we are where we are. And in terms of rebuilding, we're obviously looking to build a better team. So we're not, going to throw everything out and start from scratch. And we've got some good young players coming. We've got a bunch of good young players on the club now. And, we'll build around all of that.
He loves talking about the good young players. There are good young players.
Yeah,
there are some. But that's not the message that look, man, Bill DeWitt Jr. has had a really successful tenure of owning the Cardinals and being the chairman. I mean, you look back to the 90s when his group took over. The success was unprecedented, but like how many years later do we still get to lean on that and say, yeah, there's been more good than bad, and kind of lean on, well, we've got good young players. Like you don't have enough of them, and I think the extent to which he's going to take full ownership of that is what he said today. Like we're just not going to hear him fall on the sword, at his position, and I get it. Chaim Bloom though was very clear, like we're not where we want to be. We've got some things to work with, but we're not where we want to be, and I do believe that the brighter days are ahead. The question really is going to be, how many days do Cardinals fans have to wait to enjoy those days? And how bad could the days in between get? Again, if you're talking about trading away a few players on big contracts, okay. If you're not really going all in on 26, then I get it. Payroll's going to be lower. Like they basically said, we haven't talked about payroll. It's like, okay, interesting. Okay. And like maybe
yes, you have. Come on, you have.
I could concoct a way that it's possible that that's not a lie, that's the truth, which is like, okay, is there a payroll target in mind? I'm going to say there's not. Because first you have to figure out when we trade Arenado and Sonny Gray, how much of that do we have to eat financially, and how much does that come in the form of payroll relief, where now we can say, okay, can we allocate some of that relief back toward getting closer to 2025's payroll, or is there going to be a referendum? Does there need to be a much lower payroll? That's the decree from ownership. Like I would understand if they haven't really gotten to brass tacks on that yet, Andy, because they don't know. Just like last year, we didn't know. You're going to be able to trade Arenado, and if so, how much are you eating of the cash? I think they were supposed to eat, 15 of the 65 remaining million last year. Now, if there's 42 remaining or whatever it is, they're going to have to eat virtually all of it, in my opinion, to trade him. Like, I just don't think they're gonna have a ton of cash savings there. But Sonny Gray, I mean, he's a competitive middle of the rotation at worst, upside to be a top of the rotation arm. He still struck out 200 guys again this year, Andy. You're not going to probably want to see 35 million on your payroll to bring Sonny Gray in via trade, but you might be willing to see 15. You might be willing to see 20 or 25. The Cardinals are going to get some salary relief, I think, in a Sonny Gray trade. The degree to which they end up using that, and I saw from a later session that some of the writers have reported that free agency to fill a pitching hole in their rotation is definitely something that Chaim Bloom is looking to potentially accomplish. So, like, maybe it's not a completely dead off season in terms of all they're going to do is trade away talent or cut talent from the 40-man. Maybe they bring in some strategic moves that cost them a little bit more than a $2.5 million Phil Maton. Like, that's all they did last offseason, and it took until spring training because, again, putting the foot in the mouth, Nolan Arenado is priority 1, 2, and 3. Trading him is what Mozeliak said, and ultimately they didn't do it. He thought he did. Arenado said no. Like, I'm not saying that Mozeliak didn't have a difficult situation to deal with, but they're being vague today, I think, on purpose, because it gives them the flexibility to take what comes in terms of the market, the trades they're offered. I don't know how many of these guys are going to be dealt, but I do hope that when the dust settles on that, then they can target and say, we don't have to be completely, in the bottom 10 of payroll. Like, we can be, we can do some things that can help us expedite this rebuild a little bit, even if they're not using the word rebuild, because nobody wants to say that word, apparently.
It's a bad word. Don't want to use it.
It's not a nice word.
No, it's not. 875-KTGR, call or text us with your thoughts on Chaim Bloom, his first comments as the Pobo of the St. Louis Cardinals. And we learned this later after the press conference. Cardinals went ahead and said, yeah, Ollie Marmol's back at manager. Or did he say
you know where that came from? I think it was attributed that Frank Cusimano, because they did a lot of one-on-ones with Chaim Bloom after with the different TV stations.
Right.
And I believe I saw that was attributed to Frank, but I have not seen it from him.
It may have been something they had on the TV side. Yeah, he tweeted it out. Chaim Bloom tells me Ollie will be back. Here's what I will tell you. This is not newsworthy. And I know that Will Carroll kind of mentioned being surprised by that. I was not surprised by that. Ollie Marmol was in the same room as me yesterday when they were announcing John Mozeliak leaving. And Ollie Marmol was in the same room as me today. Talked to him briefly on the day that they're announcing John Mozeliak's successor and unveiling him to the public. That doesn't happen if you're about to move on from Ollie Marmol.
Right.
Like this is not in any way, shape, or form something that is imminent. That being said, like the P's and Q's on this are, I saw from Jeff Jones that he asked Chaim Bloom about has there been extension talks with Ollie Marmol yet? Because of course he is going into the final year of his contract in 2026. Ollie Marmol is, and said no, there hasn't really been. I've enjoyed my relationship with Ollie. I assume I'll continue to enjoy it in this role, but we haven't really gotten into that. I think it's more of a spring training thing. I still believe Ollie will actually be extended. I don't think he'll go into the final year of a contract. Unless Chaim Bloom is very, very PR savvy and blowing smoke. I believe him when he says that he's got a good relationship with Ollie. Ollie seems fired up. I asked him, I'm like, you excited about this? Like, you can just tell Ollie Marmol is ready for what's next. Because this transition year thing was very awkward probably for him.
Yeah.
Where you're stuck between two places. You also have to not be thinking about your contract in his role. He's talked about that. He's addressed, like, I just got to do my job. That doesn't change. And I have to have confidence and comfort in knowing that I'm doing the best thing in my role that I can possibly be doing every single day. But like he's human too. So you have to go, man, at some point, is that not weird to navigate? Of you're answering to the person in charge this year, you know he's gone on September 30th, and the guy that comes in next year, you're building a relationship with, but you have to, you have to want to make sure you're doing things that are in alignment with what his vision is going to be, because you'd like to keep your job. Like, there's a lot of balls in play on that. But I do believe that Ollie Marmol being retained by the Cardinals is a no-brainer, and I'm glad we don't have to go through this like hemming and hawing over will they, won't they. Like, yes, he's going to be the manager next year. And as far as the field staff and the rest of his coaching staff, Chaim said expecting a lot of continuity on that, but didn't say, it's not maybe going to be 100% continuity. They've still got some things. They got guys that are on expiring contracts, and they got to figure out, okay, they're bringing it back. They're not, like, it's just typical interpersonal stuff. It's not anything more than that. I don't think there's any smoking gun with any of this.
Yeah, because usually guys are only there on 1, maybe 2-year contracts a lot of the time. That's pretty standard across.
It's different.
Some those
there were some assistant coaches that got some pretty good contract stuff in terms of the length, from what I understand. But it's I don't know up to date of like who's where. But there's also a lot of managerial openings across the MLB right now, Andy. And the bench coach of the St. Louis Cardinals is somebody that I could absolutely see as a big league manager someday. And so, like, we're going to get some things ironed out, and there's going to be a musical chairs with some of that stuff. Like Skip Schumacher is another guy that was a former Cardinal coach. Very much, if he's not in a manager chair at the end of this cycle, I will be very, very surprised. So, like, there's just some things that are going to shake out. But largely, look, man, if we maintain that John Mozeliak kind of got stale toward the end of his tenure, how can you then turn around and blame the failures of the organization on the coaching and on the manager when we're admitting that they basically had a hand tied behind their back? Like that's the way that we're going to approach it. It could be both. Sometimes it is both, Andy. But right now, it seems very obvious to me that you should allow for Ollie Marmol, even though John Mozeliak would hire him. You should allow for Ollie Marmol to get the opportunity under this new regime that may be a little bit more forward-thinking and updating the Cardinals' philosophies on things.
You learn this in like your basic science classes in school. Like when you have an experiment and it doesn't work and you want to try and do it, you don't change multiple things. No, you change one thing. See, like, hey, what does this do? Rule things out. Like,
how many variables can you change at once? Because if you change a bunch of them, then you might not have known.
You don't know what the real solution is.
Yeah.
And so
now, if I were going to push back on that, I would invoke the conversation we've been having about NFL head coaches and say, like, okay, if you're changing the quarterback, does it make sense to come in and brief fresh with the new head coach that starts at the same time? So, like, I'm not unreasonable. I can understand that there would be some alternate arguments to this conversation.
Yeah. But different sport though. There's no, what's the equivalent of a quarterback in baseball? There is none. Like it's the same.
Yes.
It's not the same type of relationship that you need from like
that's
not
a
only
one-of-one in
right.
sports is a quarterback in football. They have more power than any other player position in any other sport. That's a team sport. There's just nothing like quarterback. So you're right. Like that's why I like this conversation though, because I would say I'm bringing that up as a devil advocate point. I don't believe that Ollie Marmol should be let go, but I was like, well, we did say this about the NFL head coaches, but then you're able to articulate, yeah, but there's no quarterback in baseball.
Right.
So like, I think we're on the right page with this and the way that we're evaluating it. At some point, I think Ollie Marmol's going to need the players. The question is going to be though, he's not getting the players in 2026. So if it's a situation where he is in a lame duck contract situation, then I would start to wonder about his future beyond the upcoming season. Because like if they win 75 games this coming year, that might be better than what we think they're going to do. So you can't, if you're not going to give him an extension, I do think it gets a little bit dicey. But I think before opening day, he'll get one. That's my belief.
All right. 875 KTGR. Call or text us with your thoughts on the Cardinals introducing Chaim Bloom today. Steve texting in, it will be so nice to not see that stupid bow tie anymore. Oh, come on. Hopefully he lets the manager manage.
I think the manager has managed. I think the manager has been managing. But his hands were tied by certain things. Like, did Ollie Marmol want Eric Fetty to pitch 3 times in July?
No, he did
or
not.
4 times in July, whatever it was?
He did. No.
I can promise you he didn't.
No.
I'm telling you, he flat out didn't. That's like, he just didn't.
Yeah, give him a functional roster and see what he can do with it. That's what you do. Yeah.
And they played, I think they played the final game of the season on Sunday with a no-man bench, like no bench players that they were actually going to use. Yeah. Obviously, at that point, they were eliminated. But yeah, man, I think let's not attribute some things to Oliver Marmol that Oliver Marmol may not have had the opportunity to weigh in on to the extent that would have been appropriate. It was a weird transition year. I think he handled it pretty well. Not saying he was perfect, but I think he handled it pretty well under the circumstances, and I think he can continue to help move the Cardinals forward. But do they have to take another step back first? I'm telling you, the offseason is going to be wild. There's going to be a lot that happens, and we'll get to dissect it all. I'm looking forward to it.
Chris texting in 875 KTGR. Do we have any idea if they'll be hiring a GM, and who could that be? Does it matter? I mean,
I guess it matters to people. What I saw on that is that he has not made a hire of GM yet, and will do so at some point eventually, but is not necessarily like putting a timeline on it that it has to be day one, this winter, year one. Like, it's not something that's at the forefront. But like, I think it's more a matter of, can you have more really good quality executives, more people in the department? And that's sort of what he did, bringing in, like, I kind of wondered if Rob Strofolio's title would maybe adjust at some point to where he would be that role, but he's very much working with the under portion of the organization, like the minor league stuff. And so his role in charge of like player development and performance is where he needs to be right now. And so they're going to continue to tweak and add to that front office staff. And I believe they're going to do it in maybe several significant ways, and many of which are not even going to be broadcast or known unless you're like reading into the nitty gritty. Like, I think beat writers like Derek Gould will be writing about these topics for sure. But it feels like one of those things where to get back to the forefront, you just need more resources, and they're pouring a lot of money into people and technology and things like that happen underneath the hood. And I think we'll continue to do so as Chaim kind of gets his bearings here.
All right. Well, again, tell us what you think about Chaim Bloom taking over, what he said today, and what you think the Cardinals' direction could be here very soon. 875 KTGR. You can call or text us there. You can also comment on our YouTube channel where we're live right now. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already at KTGR Sports. It's where we are on YouTube. Up next, who are you rooting for in the MLB postseason, since there's no Cardinals and no Royals in them? We'll get our rooting guide put together for the MLB postseason next on The Big Show.
Breaking down the Tigers, Cardinals, Chiefs, and more like no one else. The Big Show continues next on KTGR.
Hey, it's Andy and Brenden here with Underdog Fantasy, and what a time to hop into Underdog if you haven't already. Football season in full swing. You've got the baseball playoffs happening right now. So many things to go and check out and win money on with Underdog, Brenden.
That's right, Andy, and for me, it's never too early to look ahead to Thursday football, and I'm targeting Christian McCaffrey this week. I think he's playing at the Los Angeles Rams with his 49ers. His role has been out of control when it comes to both rushing and receiving. And this week, I think on Underdog, it's a big game for CMC on the ground. So I like higher than 58.5 rushing yards to start off my Underdog entry for Thursday.
It's a great way to start. So you take that pick, you find another pick for a player on a different team. Hey, maybe even a different sport. If you want to pair it with a baseball pick for the postseason starting this week, or you want to go deeper into the football weekend, hey, put together your entry, mix and match with different sports. And if you get all those picks in your entry right, you could win up to 5,000 times your money. So play Underdog right here in Missouri. Download the app today. Sign up with our promo code KTGR to score $100 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code KTGR. Underdog, make plays, win money. Must be 18 or older and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
When the Tigers score, you score. Today at your Columbia Hy-Vee. It's Touchdown Tuesday, and the Tigers scored 42 points on Saturday. So you earn 42 cents toward your Perks Fuel Saver for every $42 you spend. Get free gas just for shopping at Hy-Vee. If you don't have perks yet, just ask to sign up at customer service. It's Touchdown Tuesday, so earn 42 cents off a gallon of gas for every $42 you spend. Today only at Hy-Vee.
I'm Nevada Shelke, Exterior Director of Sales with TrueSun Exteriors and Interiors. TrueSun Exteriors is your exclusive preferred LP SmartSide contractor. One of the benefits that comes with our preferred contractor status is we are able to provide extended warranties with the Expert Finish product. We love LP siding because it comes in longer lengths. So that means there's less seams on your home. It has a hail warranty on its substrate up to 1 3/4 of an inch. It is an engineered wood product, so it's much easier to work with and install. LP SmartSide has several pre-finished colors available, as well as pre-finished accessories to complete your siding project.
The difference between a house and a home is the attention to detail. At TrueSun Exteriors and Interiors, we'll turn your vision of a dream home into a reality. For more information or a free estimate, go to TrueSunExteriors.com.
TrueSunExteriors.com.
Winter's on the way, so now's the time to plan your tree pruning. Here's why. In winter, trees are dormant, which means there's less risk of disease. Plus, without all those leaves, it's way easier to see exactly what needs trimming. The educated, licensed, insured, and experienced crew at Advanced Tree Solutions knows how to protect your trees and your wallet. But spots are filling fast, so schedule your winter pruning today at AdvancedTreeSolutionsLLC.com. Advanced Tree Solutions, LLC, your tree's best friend.
From Branson Landing to the Capitol Dome, Union Station to the Tigers' home. Big old service is Missouri's best. Our trusted team outpaces the rest. Show me safe coverage wherever you go. We've got you covered at Big O.
Your daily fix of local sports lives here. This is The Big Show on KTGR.
So, Cardinals fans, are you more encouraged now by the direction that the Cardinals could be taking now with Chaim Bloom as the president of baseball operations? You can call or text us here at 875-KTGR here on The Big Show. And look, it seemed also that Chaim, with, the DeWitts sitting right next to him, that he didn't want to say like, oh yeah, what we did in other places was totally the right thing to do, and I'm going to say it all there. Like, he was kind of asked about the Rays and be like, well, look, that's what worked for the Rays. What worked here can also work here. Get some, he called them tent pole players that you develop and you build around those guys. And That's how we've won here before, and we can keep doing. And you keep them around, you develop and things like that. So
I thought that was one of the more
interesting
things that he had to say. Because I think it circles around this notion of where does Brenden Donovan fit into that mix? Is he a guy that you say, hey, no, this is a tempo guy that is actually probably more affordable than if he were a 30 home run, 100 RBI slugger? I think his style of player also can age pretty gracefully. But is the timing going to be wrong? Because they just don't think the next couple of years are the time to invest. And, by the time that they're ready to invest, he's on the back half of any would-be contract extension. And so is he viewed in that way or not? And I think to the point of the question that was asked, like the Rays, you knew what was coming. If the guy had 2 years left before ARB eligibility was to run dry and he would enter free agency, that guy gets traded because they're not signing or extending anybody. And like the way to answer that is to not say, yeah, we're going to be the Rays, because that's going to put a scare into people. But he didn't say, he said you can't necessarily do that with everybody, but the tentpole players and having those guys to build around and with the right players and people, he said, hey, we're going to be open to those opportunities. Again, I've been pretty loud saying my belief is that they're going to trade Donovan, not because I'm reporting that, but because I think it's my read of the situation of like, man, if they're rebuilding and they've got weather holes, like it's almost a matter of convenience where you can say, well, we got to clear second base anyway. And if they don't think Weatherholt can stick at third and they don't want to move Donovan to third, because for as much as he does have versatility, they seem to prefer his defense at second base. I mean, the proof was in the pudding on that this year. They largely just used Donovan at second base this year. So like if it's just so convenient, and like you could squint and say, actually, we do want Donovan to be here because we think we can win sooner than later, and this can kind of keep that trajectory. You could do that, but he's already a guy they've taken to arbitration, and I don't think any of the guys in recent years that they took to ARB ever ended up re-signing. And so could this one be different? I hope so, because I think he is the player in person that Chaim Bloom could have been alluding to, that it's worth to pursue, but I just have a sinking feeling about it, and I hope I'm wrong, because I think the best thing for them to do would be trade Arenado, trade Sonny Gray. Look, you can trade Contreras if you really feel like you can get value for him. I don't want to just let ownership off the hook for a low payroll and do it for that reason. But like if Contreras wants to go somewhere to win, and there's an opportunity where you get a couple of good prospects for Wilson, he's still hitting very well, so he may have value. And his contract is up after 2 more years, so it's not like he's waiting around to the other side of whatever this little rebuild looks like. Like plug Alec Burleson into first base and go get an outfielder via trade or free agency or develop one. That's all okay. Like I can deal with that. Trading away guys who aren't to free agency yet because you just don't think you're going to be very good the next couple of years, that would be a different level to me. And I'm hoping the Cardinals don't go that route, but I'm very curious to see what route they do take.
Call or text us at 875-KTGR. Let's go to Paul here on the KTGR hotline. Paul, what you got?
Yeah, guys, as far as the starting pitching goes, I'm thinking that they're going to keep Livitar, McGurvey, and Palante, but that's 3 starters that are young and haven't really pitched a whole year, and the ones that did pitch a whole year didn't win much the last 2 months. So how does that affect your bullpen if you've got all these starting pitchers that probably going to be giving up a lot of runs?
Yeah, appreciate the call, Paul, here on the Big Show, KTGR.
Yeah, I think that was
probably outside of the Donovan thing that I'm curious about. Maybe the other biggest takeaway that people wanted to hear from Chaim Bloom about, and it was reported that the Cardinals expect pursuing pitching depth primarily a starter in free agency. I'm reading that from Jeff Jones. I feel like that's probably something that you should be a little bit encouraged by, because I've said bring Kyle Leahy into spring training as a starter. Let's see what he's got. Pay Palante his $2.5 or $3 million, even if he may not be worth it. What if you can fix him compared to what we saw this year, and you get back 2024 Palante, who was very effective? Okay, now you've got a $3 million starter, and he's under team control for the following year. That's good. But if you're trading away Sonny Gray, and you've got, as Paul mentioned, Liberatore and McGreevy, who McGreevy hasn't pitched a full year in the big leagues, but was pretty solid. And I think he's going to be durable. Like, he's going to be good. Liberatore had some durability concerns, but did get through a full season. Don't believe he ever landed on the injured list. So, like, as much as it was up down for him, Libby ended up kind of running the whole race. And now we're going to see, him try to build upon that. But you don't have enough to go into a season and say, oh yeah, this is fine, especially if your prospects aren't ready yet, which I don't think they want to rush anybody along, like a Liam Doyle or a Quinn Matthews, etc. So yeah, I think you have to be willing to spend some money, and it might just be the savings that you get from trading Sonny Gray. You reallocate that to 2 pitchers instead of 1. I think that would be great. I don't know if that's going to be what we see, but it's definitely a valid question from Paul because, the trickle-down effect on the bullpen is very real. We saw that this year when guys like Fetty, guys like Palante, and at times guys like Michaelis weren't able to get deep into games. The bullpen was strained for those weeks, and you'd really like to have guys that can get you through 5-6 innings at a minimum.
That'll be a major question. And look, I would hope that McGreevy, I think, safe. Like you're keeping McGreevy. You're keeping Liberatore, obviously.
They're locked in as long as they're healthy. Yes.
Palante is the questionable one, right? Because like you've had a few years of we want him to be a starter, but maybe it was more of a necessity at times for him to be a reliever. And now we've got it. He's had the runway as a starter. It's been like a year and a half basically for him now with all of that.
Yeah, it was May 29th of 2024, I think that he made his first start.
Right. So
back in the rotation.
And clearly the steam ran out towards the end of this season.
Not even the end. It was a rougher year for him. But he was very good last year. If you go back and look at his numbers, his ERA as a starter it was like 3.5 or something. He was very effective. So if you're thinking, can we get a flyer on somebody that as recently as 2024 has done that? Can we buy that in free agency for the same amount of money that we would pay Palante and have the extra little bonus of if we do fix Palante back to 2024 levels, he's controllable for the following year as well at a $5-6 million price tag in ARB. That might be the reason to keep him. But if you're spending a little bit of this money, I do think, especially if prospects start knocking on the door, which could happen. AAA is going to look different next year with the guys that need to come up from AA, and several of them are going to be added to the 40-man roster. If that's the way this plays out, I think next year I would hope they're going to be a little bit more willing to cut bait on something if it's like a 1-year contract for a free agent if it's not working, or cut bait on Palante next year if it's not working. We'll see what that ends up looking like. But you're right. I don't think Palante is locked in, but it's dependent upon their confidence level in being able to go out and get multiple starters via free agency and or trade. If you sign one starter and that's all you're doing, it's hard to say, don't pay Palante the $3 million because that's depth. Like you're going to need the depth of arms to get through the season. So I would lean pretty heavily toward he's back. Palante is back because for as much as I do think Chaim Bloom can be more active than Mozeliak was in the final year, in just terms of like sheer volume of doing stuff, I think Chaim's going to do more. Does it make sense to just jettison a guy and then go out and have to identify a free agent to replace him, in addition to what they're going to do anyway and talking about adding some starting depth? Probably not. So I think Palante is, for $3 million, like I hope the ownership group isn't squibbling over the $3 million and going, oh, we can't possibly bring him back. That's too much to spend on a guy that may not contribute. You got to throw some shots on goal. And I think that's how I view what they need to do with the rotation.
It's very true. Give us a call or a text at 875-KTGR with your thoughts on the Cardinals and what we could be seeing this offseason as they get closer and closer to, it would seem rebuild territory. They didn't quite say the word, but it was a little implied today.
They're building the team that's going to be better than the team they just had. It's not rebuild.
Eventually.
It's just a build. Yeah, and they're not doing it today. So,
short term versus long term, they're going to favor the long term moves. And you can read the tea leaves on that. All right. Who are you rooting for in the MLB postseason? We will get to that and several other tidbits from the day after this live local sports center here on the Big Show.
Now, your local sports center update on your total sports station, KTGR.
Good afternoon. I'm Andy Humphrey. This sports center update is with Lee's Tire Company. If it's round and rubber, Lee sells it. Go to leestirecompany.com. Today, the first day of new president of baseball operations, Chaim Bloom, with the Cardinals, as he spent the last couple of seasons as an advisor for the organization and the former President of Baseball Ops, John Mozeliak, who officially stepped down yesterday. He had served in that role since 2007. Now Bloom, who has been the lead executive at both the Rays and the Red Sox organizations, will take over the Cardinals. And it was also confirmed that Ollie Marmol will be returning for his 5th season as the manager of the Cardinals in 2026. Cardinals went 78-84 this past season, missing the playoffs for the 3rd consecutive year. On the Royals side, General Manager J.J. Piccolo said that Alec Zumwalt, the hitting coach for the Royals, will return for 2026 and said that most of the staff will be returning as well, according to Andy Rogers of MLB.com. Royals finished 82-80 this season with their 2nd straight winning season. First time they had done that since the 2014-2015 years. Now your ABC 17 Storm Track forecast on your total sports station, KTGR.
I'm ABC 17 Storm Track Chief Meteorologist Jessica Hafner. I'm tracking mostly clear skies with a chance of some steam fog in river valleys tonight. We'll drop down into the low 60s. Tomorrow we'll see sunshine again with highs in the upper 80s, and heat looks to continue. We'll see partly cloudy skies tomorrow night with temperatures falling into the low 60s, highs back into the 80s on Wednesday. I'm ABC 17 Storm Track Chief Meteorologist Jessica Hafner, and that's your ABC 17 Storm Track forecast on your total sports station, KTGR.
The Rich Eisen Show.
Ethan Hawke is here. I started my life a Cowboys fan, 13 years old, and I remember going out back just weeping. It was the first awakening that life just wasn't going to always go your way.
Sports is an excellent metaphor for that sort of stuff.
Since then, I have found that athletics has more to teach you about the fundamental natures of mankind than Tolstoy does.
Catch The Rich Eisen Show weekdays from 11 to 2 on KTGR and the KTGR app.
Hi, everyone. Andy Humphrey here for ProfitShares.com. A great way to show off your football knowledge all season long without spending any money. If you want to just win prizes without putting anything in, well, ProfitShares.com helps you do that. Go and sign up if you haven't already. Once you do, they'll give you a set of online credits to use, and then that lets you test out the different markets they have for picks that you can make all across sports. But you can also enter weekly contests. If you want to predict the winners of games, you can enter into the Margin Madness contest that they have every week for pro football and college football. Or if you just want to predict how a few players will do, enter the Profit Picks contest every week. And the more you do, the more you can win, and then your points build up, and then you can redeem those points for gift cards to restaurants, or you can use them to make charitable donations to some great causes and nonprofit organizations. So go and check it out. That's PROPHET shares.com, ProfitShares.com. Go start picking today.
Macadoodles does selection like nobody else. If you're looking for ingredients to make the perfect new drink, look no further. Why settle for boring? Macadoodles has you covered. With Columbia's widest variety of beer, wine, and spirits, you're sure to find something new and exciting when you shop with Macadoodles. Come experience the difference in selection at Macadoodles today. Macadoodles delivers world-class customer service and unmatched selection at unbeatable prices. Who does selection like nobody else? Macadoodles does.
Discover, explore, and soak in the views of the incredible landscapes that make up the last frontier, Alaska. Experience the diverse culture and rich history as we cruise the Pacific coast and explore the wilds of Denali, Glacier Bay, and beyond. And boy, do we have some good news. There are currently still seats available, but don't wait, as you only have until October 3rd to book this once-in-a-lifetime trip. To RSVP and learn more, go to ZimmerCommunications.com today.
It was 2:30 on a Tuesday when the phone rang. Brian Ware Plumbing answered the call. It was a dismayed wife. Fresh off vacation, her and her hubby came home to a wrecked water heater. It had sprung a leak, a bad one. So while the plumbing team took care of that leaky water heater, Brian's certified restoration guide, Josh, with 2 decades of experience, came in to restore the area and stop mold in its tracks. Another day, another job, another expert added to the team. Ho-hum. Better call Brian and unplug your plumbing problems. BrianWarePlumbing.com.
Step into comfort with this new property from Atterbury Auction and Realty Company in South Columbia. This property features a 4,000 square foot home on 11.5 acres with plenty of room to spread out. With 5 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms, a walkout basement, sun porch, storm shelter, John Deere room, and more. Plus a private pond with wide open spaces, bringing you a peaceful getaway just minutes from town. For open house dates, bidding info, and more, visit
Atterbury South. CatterberrySales.com.
Zimmer Communications is an equal opportunity employer. If you're hardworking, driven to succeed, and would like to be a part of the Zimmer team, please visit ZimmerCommunications.com to apply and see all of our current openings. Candidates should have a proven track record of success and creative problem-solving abilities. You can also apply in person at either of our locations, 3109 South 10 Mile Drive in Jefferson City or at 3215 Lamone Industrial Boulevard in Columbia.
The best local sports talk around on your ride home. You've got The Big Show on KTGR.
There's a new era now in Cardinals land. Chaim Bloom in charge. How do you feel about it? I don't know how you could come away with that feeling bad about it, even though it seems that the team might be going for more of a longer-term build. Notice how I didn't say the R word there. But, hey, at least it sounds good coming out of Chaim Bloom's mouth. And the way that he articulated it, I think, matters to folks because transparency, or at least a clear messaging, has been... Yeah, the clear messaging part has been lacking from the past regime.
Yeah, and I felt like one of the things he said today was we're not going to concede anything. And I thought that was a good line. When he said it, you're like, well, what exactly does that mean? He went on to say, whether it's in scouting, whether it's in our work and this and that. So like, it's basically as an organization, we're not conceding. And that's the opposite of saying we're rebuilding, even though you're kind of doing the same stuff that a rebuild entails. They're not conceding anything of like, we're going to lose for this many years and then we're hoping to be able to win. And he mentioned too, that when you're, always operating with the long view in mind, but willing to take the opportunities that can help with that long-term plan, even if it is something that's just being opportunistic to an opportunity or a moment or a trade or a signing that happens to come available that makes sense. He said, like, doing those things and kind of sticking disciplined to your long-term plan while still considering those short-term things is a way that you can expedite a process like this. He said, everywhere I've been, that's really what the way it's gone, where like you stay disciplined to the long term and you'll find that nothing in the short term has to be given up, and you can oftentimes get there quicker. So we'll see if the Cardinals get there quicker. I understand why you wouldn't want to put a timeline on it, because again, that kind of boxes you into a couple of things. It boxes you into telling fans you don't need to care about the team for next year or 2027, which why would they want to do that? They still get revenue from people coming to the games, and maybe the new regime inspires people to want to show up more and support what's going on. Maybe it doesn't. Time's going to tell on that. But there's no reason to box yourself into that. I thought he did a good job today of not boxing himself or the Cardinals into anything that isn't going to benefit them down the road.
So if you want to weigh in on what he said, give us a call or a text at 875-KTGR. In the meantime, if you're still into baseball and you're following the postseason, you most likely need someone to root for. Not the Cardinals, right? Not the Royals either. So who is the easiest team to root for in this MLB postseason? Sorry, I had to sneeze.
Bless you.
Yeah.
Bless you.
I'm sure that nobody heard that, but
the Mariners. The Mariners are the easiest team to root for, I think.
Yeah.
I know you're an AL West fan of the Astros, and so that might be a little bit. Might get a little bit of pushback.
A little touchy, but don't get me wrong. Touchy. I've been tempted.
But is that the answer? I mean, I think that's the answer when you think about DePoto and the way that he is not afraid to make moves and take big swings and be bold. And then you have fun players. You have a team that, was exciting in the way that they were able to get into the postseason by having a great run toward the end. Not a ton of recent success in terms of postseason. Like I feel like they check all the boxes of kind of what, as a neutral observer, we would look for and say, man, I want to see that team do well.
And they got the bye too. They don't have to play this week, and they can they can host multiple playoff games to try and help their chances a little bit, which they had been in a wild card series within the last few years, but man, that place is rocking whenever they have a chance to play in a postseason. I kind of like it's not that they're the most talented team. They played like an excellent team for about 4 months of the season. Then they had to hang on by a thread to even make it. But the Tigers are still, I think, pretty fun. Tarek Skubal's pretty fun. Like 14 strikeouts today. My gosh. And then, the fact that from that AL Central with that wild card series, I would lean Tigers over Guardians as the more fun team with that. And clearly the Tigers have a better chance of advancing now after they won today. But I kind of lean towards them a little bit. I lean towards the Blue Jays, who hadn't had a whole lot of postseason success recently.
AL feels easy.
Right.
Whoever wins that Boston New York series, which is how cool is that? That somehow those two teams end up matched up against each other in a wild card best 2 out of 3. But whoever emerges from that, you're rooting against them the next round. And then anybody else that can make it out of the AL, you're cool. Like, you got a chance for some fresh blood in there to make a World Series. And it's like the only team that could defy that is the winner of that Boston New York series running the table and getting the World Series. That's the only team I really honestly would prefer not to see, just because I think it would be fun to get somebody else in there. And they're the only AL team that's not like a plucky upstart. Everybody else feels like a plucky upstart in the entire American League.
Love it. And it's great that they match up against each other so they can eliminate each other. And
knock each other out.
We'll see what happens. Do we know who faces them next? I don't have the seed offhand. Is that the Mariners?
The Blue Jays are who faces them next. I don't believe they reseed.
No,
so I think it stays, which is very weird that it ended up divisional. Like, I guess that's just the way the records went. But the Red Sox and Yankees play each other. Winner plays an AL East team. And then the AL Central teams matched up against each other. The Cubs are leading the Padres. We can talk about our picks from the National League, but they'll play the Brewers. The winner of that series will play the Brewers. So there's some divisional flair to that. Although 3 NL Central teams end up making the damn playoffs, and the Cardinals can't be one of them. Is kind of a topsy-turvy world we're living in, but we should be used to it by now the last few years, the way they've gone.
And at least that makes it I think a little fun. Reds were a fun team this year.
Oh, surely we want the Reds to beat the Dodgers, just so we can say, like, it's not as simple as just show up in October and bring your best, and then you end up still being the Dodgers. Like, I'm totally cool with rooting for the Reds to win that first series.
Absolutely. You can hear that, by the way, on KTGR tonight. First game, Reds and Dodgers, and the second game tomorrow, Reds and Dodgers. Starting at the first pitch is just after 8 p.m. Central Time, so be sure to tune in for that right here on KTGR from ESPN Radio's coverage. Yeah, I mean, there's no way the Dodgers can be the answer to this question. Like, I will say this, though, like, they're in the wild card series now. Do you think they'll move on and represent the NL even from the wild card series?
It'll probably be a 2-game sweep, but I mean, the thing of it is, like, they're facing Hunter Green. They got Blake Snell on the mound tonight. It looks like if Hunter Green shoves, like, you can lose a game 2-1, like, probably low scoring. I think the Dodgers will win the series. So if I'm predicting it, I would say Dodgers. Obviously, we're having our show after the first game had been played of the Padres Cubs series. I was kind of thinking the Padres would be dangerous in that series, but it's tough to come back from that deficit when you only have a best 2 out of 3. So if it ends up being that the Cubs advance, I mean, you're going to get a very creative pairing in the World Series this year. I think no matter how you slice it, it's pretty wide open. It feels more wide open than in most years because you've got the Dodgers kind of underperforming. You've got the Yankees underperforming. They're still in the playoffs, but they weren't the team that they were thinking they were going to be. A team like the Brewers that dominates the regular season, we haven't seen them have postseason success. Can this year be different? Like, I don't know about rooting, but I'm rooting for it to be compelling as always. And I'll say Cubs beat the Padres. Cubs probably beat the Brewers. Dodgers over the Reds. Phillies over the Dodgers, though.
Series, man.
Dodgers.
Cubs Brewers, man. It's gonna be
Cubs
so
Brewers
fun.
would be a fun series.
Oh, man.
Phillies Cubs, Phillies Brewers would be fun. I think you're good. Phillies are probably making the World Series, though. That's the team that I think is.
So yeah, they have the shortest odds on unnamedsportsbook.com. I will say from that angle, like, here's the thing. If you think the Reds are going to pull out that series against the Dodgers, well, then once they get past that point, I mean, yeah, it'll be hard to do and probably hard to predict. But if you're one of those folks out there that feels like they're going to do it, by that point, anything can happen if they get past that big bad wolf. And so plus 3,300 right now to win the World Series for the Reds.
They can't be the American League team. They can't beat the American League team.
I don't think so.
No, I just don't think they can.
They slay the Phillies or the Brewers in the next round.
I don't think they can do it. I'm a big time skeptic, man. That would be the one thing that could shock me from this bracket. Like the Tigers were the 6th seed. Them, like you said, they're one of the best teams throughout the year, and then they kind of limped in. But then beating the Mariners and then whoever emerges from the other side would not stun me if that happened. There's nobody in the American League that could stun me getting to the World Series. The only one is on the NL side. It would be the Reds. That would stun me.
Yeah, it's like they have longer odds than the Padres right now, and the Padres already lost a game.
Yeah. They have to. That's crazy. They have to face the Phillies, who I think are probably the best team positioned to carve through the National League side of the bracket. No offense, Brewers. I'm going to need to see it from you before I believe. I'll take Cubs over Brewers. Phillies over Cubs. I really want to go Seattle. I really want to go Seattle. I think I will. Let's go Seattle against the Phillies in the World Series. That's my prediction.
I'm going Toronto versus the Cubs.
Okay.
Well,
it should be fun,
man. It really should. There should be some fun moments from this
because it's wide open. It really is
wide open. As wide open as it's been.
No 100-game winner this year. So I mean, just the fact that everyone is so close together, and that even through all of that, it seemed that we got the 12 right teams in. There was no record that got left out or anything like that. So I think that's provides this to be a pretty intriguing bracket overall. And again, you can we'll bring you as much coverage as we can from ESPN Radio for the MLB postseason. Be sure to tune in tonight at 8:00 right after Tiger Talk, as we'll bring you coverage of Reds and Dodgers. We'll also bring that same series to you tomorrow night, Game 2 over in LA. So be sure to catch that as well. Thanks for the injury expert, Will Carroll, for joining us last hour. And be sure to, again, subscribe on YouTube. You can catch our shows live there via video. And be sure to catch up on any of the show that you missed on our handy-dandy KTGR app. We're back tomorrow at 4:00 to talk our SEC football tiers, more baseball, and, of course, NFL. We'll have Matt Hamilton of FanDuel TV on tomorrow, so don't miss him. He's Brenden. I'm Andy. We're done for now.
When the Tigers score, you score. Today at your Columbia Hy-Vee, it's touchdown